Literature time. Get out your books. Today you're going to need your book. We're actually opening our book. Hopefully your maps turned out okay of wells yesterday and you labeled everything that you're supposed to label. So we are going to open our books to the very center. Not the very center, the very beginning, I should say. So it's really nice. So it's got Mary Jones and her Bible. Let's open up to page number 7. So let's open up to page number 7. This is what it looks like. Okay, page number 7. Let's start on page number 6 over here. This little book tells how one of the least of seeds grew to be the greatest trees, right? So some seeds are very, very small. If you plant them like the redwood trees, remember the huge trees we went to see years ago? They come from a little bitty seed like that. So this little book tells how one of the least of seeds grew to be the strong or the greatest of trees. Let's read the little poem here. O shepherd of all the flock of God, watch over thy lambs and feed them. For thou alone through the rugged paths in the way of life canst lead them. Right? Only God can lead us through the rugged paths. What did they mean by rugged paths? Thou alone through the rugged paths means only you through the rugged paths in the way of life can lead them. Is life always easy? No, sometimes life is very difficult. But even through the difficult times, God can lead us. Now notice what it says. It says, watch over thy lambs and feed them. Right? Because we are the flock of God. All right, let's go on to the next page. We're going to start on page 8, and I want you to follow along with me. It would be hard to find a lovelier, more picturesque spot than the valley on the southwest side of Cader Idris. Mountain, where the little village of Liffenangel and Pennant nestles. So, remember on your map, you drew, there was a little triangle type thing, and you wrote Cader Idris right beside it, and you also wrote Lanfehagel. Lanfehagel. We'll get that eventually. Lanfehagel and Pennant, right? So you label both of those. So this is where we're talking about, on that part of Wales, up in the northeast side, or northwest side is where they live. So let me pull up my map. It should remind you. So here's the map. So right here, you're kind of in the middle west side over here. So here's Cader Idris and Lanfehagel. Lanfehagel. We can say that. Try and say that 5 times fast. Above it towers the majestic mountain with its dark crags, its rocky precipices, and its steep ascents, while stretching away in the distance to the west lies the bold shore and the glistening waters of Cardigan Bay, where the white breakers come rolling in and dash into foam, only to gather afresh and return undaunted to the charge. The mountain, the outline on the bay, and the wonderful picturesqueness of the valley are still much as they were hundreds of years ago. Still, the eye of the traveler gazes in wonder at their wild beauty as the other eyes of the other travelers did in times gone by. But while nature's great landmarks remain or undergo a change so gradual as to be almost imperceptible, man, the tenant of God's earth — what does a tenant mean? It means the keeper of God's earth — is born, lives his brief life, and passes away, leaving only too often hardly even a memory behind him. We're on page 9 now. We're going to read all the way through page 9, okay? And now, as in thought, we stand upon the lower slopes of Cader Idris and look across the little village of Lanfehagel. We find ourselves wondering what kind of people have occupied those simple gray cottages for the last centuries. What were their histories, their habits, their toils and struggles, their sorrows and pleasures? To those then who share our interest in the place and neighborhood and events connected with them, we would tell the simple tale which gives Lanfehagel, a place among the justly celebrated and honored spots in Wales. From its soil sprang a shoot, which growing strongly soon spread forth great branches throughout the earth, becoming indeed a tree of life, whose leaves are for the healing of the nations. All right. So That's what we're going to study. Now, I want you to notice that it talks very clearly about the mountain. So I've got some pictures of the mountain to show you. So I printed up some of these for you, and I'm going to show you. So here's one. I'm going to get real close. So over here is Cadair Idris. And I think right in here is where Lanfehangel was. Lanfehangel. Okay? That one's a pretty picture. There's another one. And I'm not going to tell you about the whole story, but I will tell you something interesting. So, let's get this picture. Here's another picture of it as well. See how pretty it is? So beautiful. God created very beautiful things. Now here's one. I found one from the sky. So this is like a satellite looking down. So I think Lanfehangel was right in here. It was in this area. So here you can see the mountain. Okay, this is probably the bay. And here's another shot of it. That's a mountain that Mary Jones would look at every morning. And I got some pictures of the town. So here's kind of a picture. I couldn't find many pictures, but see, this is what it looked like. Kind of what it looks like now, I think. So it's really old. Now, I did find something interesting as I was researching and looking at this. Check this out. You can't read it because it's in Welsh, but look what it says. Mary Jones's home. How cool is that? So this is a picture of Mary Jones's home. They have an actual picture of where she lived. So this is what it looks like. So this was her house right here. This whole thing, you see? You see the walls right here? And then they got this statue right here, which is just a monument to what she did. And we're going to find out what she did. So this is where her house was. She probably played out in here. She probably slept or did something in these rooms many, many years ago. Remember back in we'll find out the date. So here's the monument that's inside, and it has stuff written in Welsh, and it has stuff written about Mary Jones right there. And we'll read that when we finish the book. I'll get you a good picture of that so we can see the inscription. And here's another view of her house. See? So we were looking from this way before. Here's that sign that I showed you, and here's that the monument to her. So it's got some stuff written. I don't know what that says, but this is where her house was. How cool is that? That we have a place where Mary Jones's house was. I think that's pretty awesome. So we're going to take out our literature 4 page. So get out your literature 4. Make sure it says literature number 4, because this one is literature number 4. So make sure you pull that one out right there, okay? And we're going to do the 5 elements. Write your name and date. Of course, we always write our name and date first. Now, we have 5 elements. Let's read them together. Characterization, the people or animals in a story and how they act. Setting, when and where the story takes place. The plot, the events that make up the story. And then the style, which is the author's own special way of telling the story, or storytelling, the way he writes, or she writes, which would be Mary Ropes, the way she writes, right? And then the leading idea, a thought that leads to a principle. And because what we want to do is, as you read your literature, you want to see what is the book saying and what biblical and good ideas are you able to take away. Now, there are some books that give you bad ideas, but we want to read books that give us good ideas, okay? That's called quality literature. All right, so were there any characters in this part of the book? No, this was just the introduction, right? So as you said, you see, I wrote chapter 1, and then here it says scene is the introduction. Okay, so that's just the introduction. So there were no characters, so we'll leave that blank. But where was the setting? Look in the book, page 8, and let's find the setting. Okay, it says, let's see. You see it in the very first paragraph? It would be hard to find a lovelier, more picturesque spot than the valley on the southwest side of Cadair Idris Mountain, where the little village of Lanfehangel and Pennant nestles. So let's write that down on the board, right? The setting, and now we're going to use our quotation marks, of course, in setting. Make sure you're in setting. Boys and girls, do not bring your paper back with it in a different place. The valley this is where it's found. You always want to find the setting of your scene, okay? Of what's happening and where it's set. This valley on the southwest you'll see that up there? Southwest side of Peter Idris Mountain. And we close our quotations. And what page was it on? Of course, page 8. So make sure you do that. All right. So pause the video, write that down, and then come back because we're going to go on to the next one. So go ahead and pause and write that down. All right. Now we're going to go on to the style. Let's skip down and go to the style. We're going to do plot and leading idea afterwards. So the style is we're going to do description. So I'm going to erase this. Hopefully you've paused it and everything and wrote this down. So we're going to put make sure you go to style, okay? The next one, not plot, but style. Make sure you read. And we're going to do description. Description, right? And that's how we do it, correct? Now, let's look in here. Where it says again on page 8. Where is it at? Towers. So it's towers the majestic mountain with its dark crags and its rocky precipices and its steep ascents. Okay, here it is. It's in the second paragraph. Above it, above what? Above the little town. Towers the majestic mountain with its crags, its rocky precipices, and its steep ascents. So that's describing the mountain, isn't it? So it's descriptive. Descriptive means you're describing something. So let's write that down, okay? Since it's not starting at the beginning of a sentence, we're going to write ... Don't forget your comma. Make sure you spell it right. So, description. Towers the majestic mountain with its rocky precipices and its steep ascents. All right, so pause that and write it down. Okay, good. I'm glad you paused it. We're going to erase it because now we're going to go into our next one. What is the next element? Now, normally in class, boys and girls, Mr. Vaughn would not write it for you. You would have to find it on your own, okay? But since we're doing it together through distance learning, I'm going to write it for you, but I want you to realize how we're looking for these so that when we do come back to class, you're going to be writing it by yourself. I'm going to tell you which page to look on. You're going to read through the page, and you're going to find these ideas by yourself. I'm not going to be helping you. Well, I'll help you independently, but I won't be writing them up on the board like I am doing now. I'm doing this time because of how we're doing it through video. So, all right, let's do plot. What is the thing that happened? Now remember, a plot, every event has a cause, right? What in here is what happened? Okay, let's go right here and we can see it. And this is what it says. Let's see how we could talk about it. It's on page 9. All right. Listen, from its soil, here it is. That's not it yet. The simple tale. I'm trying to find where it is because I've got it written down. All right. To those then who share our interest, we're on page 9 right here, in the place and neighborhood and in the events connected with them. So what place? The place of Landverhagel, okay? With them, we would tell a simple tale which gives Landverhagel a place among the justly celebrated and honored spots in Wales. So this Landverhagel has a special place in Wales. There's something important that happened here. So that's going to be our cause. The simple tale which gives, that's going to be our event. So let's write that. So we're going to write under plot, make sure you got it on plot. Let's put that, of course, on page 9. So the simple, put dot and dot, forgot that. The simple tale which gives Landverhagel, a place among the justly celebrated and honored spots in Wales. So this is an event that happened. So it's got its spot, means it's people recognize it, it's important, it's honored. So why? What caused it to be honored? So as you know, what we're going to do is we're going to put a big and write cause, big parentheses, right? Cause, because now we're going to write our cause. We're going to put 3 dots there. Okay, can y'all see that? This is a long one. Okay. Page 9 also. So it says, from its soil sprang a shoot which soon spread forth great branches, right? So because it spread forth, and I think, you know what, actually let's do this right here. Let's erase that and put 4 the healing of the nations. Page 9. Yeah, there we go. I forgot that part. So, from its soil sprang forth a shoot, which soon spread forth great branches for the healing of the nations. And because it sprang forth a shoot, because this came out of Lefenhangel, Lefenhangel now has a place among the justly celebrated and honored spots in Wales. Because, now what it means by a shoot, have you ever seen like when you plant a seed and all of a sudden through the seed you got this little green thing that shoots up and it grows and grows into a tree and it spreads its branches? You can go on YouTube and look for time lapse. You can go on YouTube, look for tree growing time lapse. If you look for that, it'll show a tree or a plant or something growing out of the ground really fast and growing up. It starts off with a little bitty shoot, just right out of the ground, little green thing right out of the ground, and it goes up and it turns into a huge tree, and it ends up being a blessing to the whole nation. Not only to that nation, but of the nations, healing of the nations. And we're going to see how this all plays in to Mary Jones and her Bible. So it's going to be very exciting to see. So this was the effect, or the cause, and this was the effect. All right, pause that and write it. Okay, we got to go quickly here. We're going to do one more. We're going to do the plot. Are you ready for the plot? I need to get a better eraser because my eraser is not doing too good. Not the plot, I'm sorry. We're going to do the leading idea. So what do we learn? Okay? For the leading idea, we're going to learn about life. What did this tell us about life? Let's look at where it talked to us about life. All right, on page, it says, talks about it in page 8 and 9. So notice right here, it says, man, the tenant, which means the one who's in charge of God's earth, is born, lives his brief life, and passes away, leaving only too often hardly even a memory behind him. Saying, man is born, he lives his life, then he dies, and leaves hardly a memory. So what does this tell us about life? Let's do it like this. Man, it could also be woman. Man means just humans. Man is born. Then what happens? Lives his brief. What does brief mean? It means short. Our life is not very long compared to eternity, is it? And passes away. Right? So in here we learn page, because it goes page 8 through 9. Here we learn something about life. That man is born, humans are born, they live. Now notice it says brief. This is a very interesting thing. It says brief. That's a very short life and passes away. Now notice she goes on to say, the author goes on to say, leaving only too often hardly even a memory behind him. Do you know how many millions and billions of people have been dead and we have no knowledge about them at all? They live their life, they die, we don't know anything about them. But then there's certain people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, Jesus, Moses, William Tyndale, John Wycliffe, all these guys, they lived a short life as well, but they left a memory behind, didn't they? Because they served God. And if we serve God like Mary Jones did, we'll leave a memory behind as well for others. So write this down. You should be done with your 5 elements paper. The only one that should not be filled out is characterization, because you know there was no characters in this one. So we'll get into scene 1 next class.